Conservancy. May we have, I'm doing the call to order. May we have roll call, please?
Sure. Just briefly, we're all getting professional at this, but we are on the Zoom platform. So staff, board members, and presenters have the ability to unmute themselves. Any members of the public, if you would like to speak at recognized times, please go to the chat function and raise your hand and you'll be recognized, and then the host will unmute you. If you're on the phone, you'll have to hit #2 to raise your hand, and the host will unmute you at appropriate times, but you may need to go ahead and unmute your phone then. You can also send comments directly in writing to contact@deltaconservancy.ca.gov. And so appreciate everybody's patience with the platform. So Jessica, if you would please do a roll call vote of all members and then recognize any ex officio members and liaison advisors that we have on.
Absolutely.
Not a roll call, but. Yeah.
Absolutely. Chair Mitchoff.
Here.
Vice Chair Winternitz is absent today. Supervisor Natoli.
Here.
Supervisor Miller.
Here.
Supervisor Mashburn. Absent. Supervisor Provenza.
Here.
Sally Lukenbill. She is trying to get in, so I have sent a link, so she should be probably joining us shortly. Board Member Cash.
Brian has let me know that he's in another meeting that is super important, and he will join us as soon as he can.
Okay. Board Member Matsumoto.
Here.
Board Member Ruthstaller. And Board Member Sandoval.
Present.
Do we have Assembly Member Grayson here today? And liaison advisors, I've got Steve and Eric and Jessica. Do we have any others? Okay, great. That will do it for today. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. This is the opportunity for anyone to make any comments on any items that are not on today's agenda. There will be an opportunity to make comments on agenda items at the time that comes up. Do we have any public comments, Jessica?
No public comment.
Thank you very much. We will move on to item 4, which are board elections. I understand I would have a motion from Supervisor Miller.
Yes, I would like to nominate Don Natoli to serve as our next 2-year term for president or chair, excuse me.
And I'm going to make this real easy and
I'm giving him a quick promotion.
No thanks.
I'm going to second Supervisor Miller's motion, along with the addition of Sandy Matsumoto as our vice chair. So there's a motion for Don Natoli chair and Sandy Matsumoto for vice chair. It's been seconded. Do we have any comment or discussion by board members? Is there
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
I would like to say that Don will be an excellent chair, and I'm very happy to see him assume that role.
Yes, I very much agree, and I'm looking forward to the smooth transition of power, as we put it.
Yeah, nobody's going to storm the Conservancy offices.
Well, because nobody's there. But Jessica, do we have any public comment? Martha's trying to shake her head.
No public comment.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry, Martha will be handling public comment today.
All right, great. But Jessica, will you be handling the roll call?
Absolutely, here I am.
Roll
Are you
call.
ready?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller. Mitchoff.
Yes.
Winternitz is absent. Supervisor Natoli.
Aye.
Yes. Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Mashburn still absent. Supervisor Provenza.
Aye.
Aye. I did get a message that Sally Lukenbill will not be attending. Did Brian Cash make it yet? Absent. Board Member Matsumoto.
Yes, do I vote on this?
I was wondering about that, but I
Yes.
don't know. Why not?
Okay, yes.
Board Member Rustoller is absent and Board Member Sandoval?
Definitely yes.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ayes. The motion carries.
Great.
And
Well,
thank
let's-
you, Mr. Natoli, please take over.
And just, sorry, just
Go ahead,
before we do, definitely want to say on the part of the Conservancy, thank you so much to Karen and Leo for their service for the last 2
Yes.
years. It's been great working with you, and we've really appreciated your leadership. And we very much look forward to working with Don and Sandy in the same capacity. So thank you so much to all of them.
Very
Thanks,
well.
thanks, Campbell, and I would just echo those comments certainly to our colleagues, to Karen and to Leo, and good leadership. And Karen runs a very efficient meeting, so I'm going to be challenged to move the agenda. She's very good about if she doesn't get a quick motion, she'll point to someone and make sure that the motion is made consistent with the board discussion. But thanks, Karen, and thanks, Leo, who's not with us, and congratulations to Sandy, and certainly look forward to continue to work at the Conservancy, and thank you all for your kind comments and for your support. So we don't have any big award or plaque for you, Karen, so we'll just give you
My wall
kudos
is
and-
full and my heart is full.
Thank you so much. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, with that, then let's keep moving. I know we have a kind of a fragile quorum here today, so hopefully we can hold that together for our action items. And I would just note quickly too that if folks do have other scheduling conflicts, I appreciate the attention to the Conservancy agenda here. But if you have those, certainly through the chair or through the executive director, let us know so we can accommodate the agenda, even though we have a certain order to it. We can make sure that we can get to action items. And I know Karen's been good in accommodating that during her tenure. So, okay, with that, then let's go to our consent calendar. Just the one item, the minutes of the May 26, 2021 meeting. Any questions or comments, modifications? All right, seeing none,
Kathy
then a
wants
motion.
to say
Looks like
something.
Kathy.
Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I would move to approve.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second then to approve the consent calendar item. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, and with that, if there's no further comments or items by members of the Conservancy Board, we'll go ahead and call the roll, please.
We do, last time we did only have 6. I'm sorry for my miscount there. So Karen Mitchoff,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchoff,
Oh,
Supervisor Natoli,
Aye.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Mashburn is absent. Supervisor Provenza,
Aye.
and
Sorry.
Sally Lukenville actually is still trying to get in, but has not made it in yet. Brian Cash still absent. Okay. Board Member Matsumoto, or
Yes,
Vice Chair Matsumoto, should I say?
That's right.
yes.
Board Member Rustoller is absent, and Board Member Sandoval.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries.
Thank you. And what's our bare minimum? 6?
6, we need to have 6, and we have 6.
Okay, very good. I just want to be sure of that. Okay, well, thank you. Then moving down the agenda, we're going to go to the executive officer's report. So Campbell, I know you got several updates.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so we have 6 now, with I think at least 2 still trying to come in, and one other one that might join us later. So you all have the executive officer's report, so I'm just going to hit some highlights and run through. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time and ask any questions you may have. I have to start on a sad note. We are losing 3 key staff, Elisa Harrop and Erin Heyman. Their last day was last week. And then Dylan Moore, her last day is next week. So all 3 of these staff have been just a great part of the team and have made just incredible contributions to the Conservancy through time. And so we really just greatly appreciate their contributions and their being a part of the team, and we're going to miss all of them. It's never a good time to lose staff. It's certainly never a good time to lose 3 staff at one time. But they're all moving on to, good things in their careers, and so we definitely wish them well and thank them for everything that they've done. So we are actively working to backfill those positions. We have applications in hand for one. Another one has been announced, but it will take us some time. We have to bring people on. That's a process, and then get them kind of up to speed. So just appreciate your patience and recognition that we'll be a little short staffed for the foreseeable future. Moving on to
that's what happens when you get a new chair. See, they all
everybody scatters.
They heard what was coming.
But Don, they were looking for those jobs under my tenure, so
Okay. We wish them all well, though, and again, congratulations
Absolutely.
to them, and thanks for all their good work. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, so moving on to the COVID update. As you all are aware, we just received the same notice that all state employees will need to be vaccinated or undergo testing. We're still waiting for further guidance about what that actually will mean and look like. My understanding is it's to be effective August 9th and to be implemented by August 23rd, but again, we're still waiting for guidance. Unfortunately, the numbers are going the wrong direction. We were hoping that by October, we might be able to have a hybrid meeting in person. That's still very much in doubt, but we will keep you posted. We continue to do our back to school planning, trying to figure out what it'll look like and what our policies will be, but also still waiting for final state guidance in that regard too. And now that all seems to be maybe, backsliding a little bit. So certainly no good news there, but we will keep you posted. Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, you had an overview of that at the last board meeting, and then for the strategic plan update, you'll get an overview later on in the agenda today. Nutria eradication, the report is in there, nothing really significant, no more Delta sightings. The number of nutria continues to go up, but not in an alarming way, but also the level of effort is starting to really increase too as the programs and funding become available and sort of mature. And that's in large part due to the funding contribution from the Delta Conservancy. So good on us. Okay, moving into Community Economic Enhancement Program. Just want to share that we continue to work with Delta Protection Commission, and the final workshop on marketing is actually tomorrow evening. It'll include a variety of topics. Those have been well attended, and hopefully people are getting real value out of that. If Elisa were here, I would thank her for all of her work from our side, helping to coordinate and run those workshops, along with staff from the Delta Protection Commission. Moving on to Delta Science, I just wanted to note in the fish-friendly farming section that not written here because we just got notice, but even despite COVID delays, that program's been able to enroll the first 700 acres into that program, which is exciting. If you recall, there's a 10,000 acre commitment. And so it's nice to see that starting and actually happening. This is an alternative pathway to compliance for Delta farmers. So we expect it will be a popular program, and we'll definitely be able to achieve that target. I'm going to skip down to Conservancy funding for special projects. Sad news, through a lot of work and coordinating a very complex proposal to the Delta Stewardship Council's science program. We put in a proposal entitled Building a Sustainable, Nature-Friendly, Carbon-Neutral Agricultural Landscape in the Bay Delta. How's that for a title? And unfortunately, despite really positive feedback on the proposal, we did not receive funding. So back at it again, just recently, just earlier in July, and again with a large partnership, we put together an application to the EPA Wetland Program Development Grants. Those are grants that we've gotten historically. And this one's titled the California Wetland Program, Monitoring Workgroup Strategy and Strategic Capacity Development for the Regional Approach to Wetland Protection. Again, lots in that title. That is a grant for approximately $643,000 that would be coming through the EPA to the Regional Water Quality Control Board and then to the Conservancy. We hope to know in November whether or not that was successful. If it was, we would bring an action item to the board to approve entering into an agreement for that grant. Just, want to give you a heads up and make you aware of that. I want to recognize Rachel Wigginton on staff, our lead senior scientist. She has just done the Herculean work of coordinating all these partners and making sure that these proposals get done. It's a tremendous amount of work, and she's done a great job, and really appreciate all her work on that. A couple more notes on Delta Science. We've talked a little bit about how the Chapter 4 amendment of the Delta Plan, which is the ecosystem section, includes a recommendation to create a ecosystem, restoration committee, subcommittee of that group. So we've been working with the Stewardship Council to have listening sessions with all the members of DPEC to try to get their thoughts and ideas about what this subcommittee could look like and what it could do. Where we're really trying to steer it is that it would have a component that would function like the Delta Restoration Network, which is a group that we historically facilitated. We don't want to be redundant, but we want to make sure that the value of that process, and the value of that process was that it brought together the practitioners, the people doing the restoration, the agencies, and the Delta community into a forum where the community could engage on project concepts at an early stage. We've heard that from the Delta community from day one, that when we get to the end of permitting, we get to the CEQA process, that's too late in the process for their input to be really relevant and help to affect how projects move forward and are designed. So we're going to try to make sure that that is a component of this restoration subcommittee, and everybody so far seems receptive to that. It's just a matter of really trying to structure and figure out how we do it effectively. The Delta Invasive Species Coordination Team, the DIS team, Interagency Invasive Species Team, continues to be very active. And again, Rachel Wigginton is coordinating this effort, and we thank her for herding the cats, as it were. They are putting together a symposium that will be in late 2021 that will focus on Delta invasive species and early detection and rapid response to invasive species in the Delta. So I anticipate that early next year at maybe our January board meeting or March, we will have a full agendized item to bring to you more information and an overview of that symposium and where rapid response and detection is headed in the Delta. Let's see, I'm going to skip down now to board directives from our May meeting. There were just 3, and they've all essentially, the first was to put a website link to the environmental justice survey that we discussed at the last board meeting. That has been done. Also a request to put a link to the JEDI PowerPoint slides that were provided. That's been done. And then, sort of a standing request that it would be really nice if we could have a board meeting out in the field and see some of these projects. Obviously, we're very eager to do that. That's been historically a great opportunity and experience for us to meet the staff in that sites and see the good work that we're doing. We will do that as soon as possible. October may or may not be possible. We will just keep plugging away at that. I do just want to remind everybody that after this month, we go to our somewhat alternate schedule, and our next board meeting will be in October. So 3 months from now, and then the following one will be in January, just to make sure people are aware. So that concludes the program update. Are there any questions or comments?
Questions?
Well, I'm sorry, Chair Natoli.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to make sure that the record reflected I'm here. I've been here the whole time. Unfortunately, I had the public link, and that was what we received over here. And so I have been the public until about 10 minutes ago. But FYI, just for everybody, I was here for the votes. I really was. You can't hear me. And so you all know, the public, I'm raising my hand up and down the public thing, back and forth. No response. So it's not showing you guys, whoever's running the meeting cannot see when the public raises their hand, because I'm raising my hand over here and nothing. So just an FYI for everybody. We got to have that.
Thank you for that. James or Justin, is any feedback on that?
So I did see a couple hands that were raised when we were going through comment. I promoted him to panelist.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think Brian Cash needs the link as well.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
I think at the
And I
last couple.
also, I want to welcome Sally Lucanville too. She did get in as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've had a quorum for longer than we expected. That's good. I think James and Justin, historically, or at least at the last couple of meetings, there have been reminders that have gone out just before the meeting and a day before the meeting with the links. So we probably need to try to resume that again this go round.
Yeah, thanks, Campbell. And good morning, Mitch and Sally, and thanks for being with us and hanging in there. And again, you know, as good as this virtual approach is, it certainly can have you know, some challenges too. But thanks again. And so let me ask colleagues again. Campbell covered a lot of material, a lot of good work going on in different realms. And so, are there any questions or comments from any of the board members?
Yes.
I see Dolly's hand up.
Yes, Dolly, go ahead.
Thank you, Don. Campbell, I wanted to ask two different questions. One, Aaron has been with us or was with us for 5 years or a little bit more, and really kind of took the lead on the Prop 1 grant program once we lost Laura, thank you. It seems like over a year ago, but I sort of, you know, COVID time, it could have been 2 years for all that matters. And so how quickly do you think we're going to be able to bring somebody on into that program? Because we've got a lot of projects in the works, and there's still a lot that needs to be closed in that sense.
Yes, absolutely. So we, and we also have the solicitation open currently as well. So Shelley Temple King has been working with Aaron for quite a while. So she's taking on the leadership role for the program currently, and we're working closely with her. We're trying to prioritize to make sure that, you know, the highest priorities all are met and satisfied. And then we do have the announcement. Deborah, you might be able to help me. I can't remember whether, I don't think this is one of the announcements that has flown yet, but it'll fly as soon as possible. And we'll get applications in and try to get a backfill as soon as possible. So
yes, we're working on developing the package to do that. Unfortunately, it does tend to be a bit of a lengthy process. So I wouldn't anticipate having anybody in that position at least for a couple of months.
Okay. And then my second question, I think, Campbell, has to do with you and perhaps Martha. Is it's been our practice in the Conservancy that if somebody loses a grant opportunity, that sometimes we will meet with them and educate them on how to better their grant proposal for the next solicitation. Are you, and I think it would be Martha, because I think she's the grant administrator here. Are you guys trying to figure out why we did not get the grant that we had applied for?
yeah, absolutely. So yes, on both counts. For the grants that we didn't get, we've interacted with the Stewardship Council. We've gotten their feedback. We've had sort of the post-mortem of all the partners. And I think there's general recognition that the proposal and the strategy is a really sound process and idea, and we want to collectively continue to look for funding in the future to continue to make it happen. And then with the feedback from the Stewardship Council, I think that's helpful. To the other side, through Proposition 1 and Proposition 68, anybody who doesn't get funding, we typically have reached out to them and you know, shared with them the ways that they can improve their proposals.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dolly.
And Dolly, to your question of, you know, just backfilling and that, just know that over the last several years, we've made a really concerted effort at succession planning. So while we can't avoid it when people leave for promotions, you know, going back to school, moving out of state, which is the case, you know, for the 3 staff we're losing. So all great reasons. We've trying to set things up so that the impact of that is as minimal as possible, with having backups, cross-training, processes and procedures, things like that. And we will continue to make that even more robust. It's always an impact, but we try to mitigate it to the greatest extent possible.
Great. Thank you both. Thank you, Don.
You bet. Thanks, Dolly. Other members, got any questions of the officer?
So there is one more component of the executive officer's report, and that is the budget. And so I'm going to hand it over to Jessica to cover that.
Okay, good. All right, Jessica.
Get to put on my fiscal hat. The Delta Conservancy budget and expenditure report is agenda item 6.3. We're reporting from July of 2020 through May 31st of 2021. That's 11 months. The State Controller's Office is working now on loading the new budget, the 21-22, but it won't be done till early August. And so June will be finalized at that time. I just want to say that we have been carefully monitoring our expenditures this last quarter and we have allocated our entire general fund budget. We're not leaving anything unencumbered at year end. We have, by conservatively budgeting, we have found that we have some room at the end of the year to move our mission forward. We were able to enter into interagency agreement with Cal HR to update our human policies. We were able to replace some computer equipment. And as always, at the end of the year, we were able to encourage staff to do training for staff development. And we did see a lot of employees take advantage of that in May and June. Were there any specific questions about the report?
Board members?
Okay, thank you.
Good, thanks, Jessica. Good report, and I'm sure if there are any questions in between meetings, folks can follow up with Jessica or Campbell on budget-related matters. Okay, do we have any public comments on the executive officer's report or the budget?
No public comments.
So with that, and just I wanted to call, I know that in your report, Campbell, that mentioned that the staff work, but certainly Rachel Wigginton was working on resubmittal of the grant to the next round, I guess, with the state EPA or the EPA funding, and certainly working on the invasive species symposium. So thanks to Rachel for her efforts, along with obviously all of our staff. But, okay. Campbell, anything else? Otherwise, we're going to move on to item 7. Then. There's no action required. Oh, and good morning, Brian. Good to see you. Were you able to join us too? So, right.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Then we'll go to item number 7, which is the Prop 1 Ecosystem Restoration Water Quality Grant Program update. And I believe Shelley Temple King is going to do this. So, Shelley, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, board members. My name is Shelley Temple King. I'm an environmental scientist here at the Conservancy, and it's a pleasure to present the Proposition 1 project update, which is agenda item 7 to you today. First, as Campbell mentioned earlier, the Cycle 5 concept proposal solicitation is live, and we have hosted our first applicant workshop, at which we had about 12 attendees. We have a second applicant workshop scheduled on August 18th. And we're looking forward to receiving and reviewing concept proposals when the concept proposal solicitation closes on August 31st. You have the complete program update in the board materials, but I'd like to highlight a couple of our Proposition 1 projects for update here. Starting with a Cycle 4 funded project, which is Prop 1 1702, River Garden Farms, the property at which restoration planning at River Garden Farms is located, is for sale. This is a planning project, and so there are several conservation and restoration stakeholders involved in a variety of projects on this property, including the Audubon Society and the Nature Conservancy. And project proponents expect that the sale of the property will not affect ongoing conservation and restoration efforts. The prospective buyers and the current owners and farm management met on the 26th of July, so 2 days ago, to discuss the terms of sale, and River Garden Farms has a target date of the end of August to finalize the sale. You may recall that the board approved an amendment to this grant in March, increasing total grant funds to conduct cultural resource surveys. Due to the current uncertainty, the grantee has ceased all project planning until there is confirmation of support from the new landowner. So they are not currently accruing any grant reimbursement. Moving on to another Cycle 4 funded project, which is Prop 1 1709, the Knightson Wetland Restoration and Flood Protection Project, which has had some vocal pushback from the Knightson Town Community Services District, has contracted an outreach facilitator, in part with the extra funds awarded by the board last year. And the facilitator is completing the first round of stakeholder interviews. Additionally, the supplemental surveys that were required by the Community Services District in their February 2020 letter have been completed and are being finalized. The surveys contain no indication that the concerns brought forth by the Community Services District, particularly leaching into private wells, are likely to occur given the restoration plans. Finally, in May, we made an error in the Proposition 1 board update when we reported that the grant agreement for the Marsh Creek Channel restoration had been executed. This is Prop 1 1809. The agreement had been sent to the grantee for signature, but had not been returned. The grantee subsequently requested that we pause execution due to some uncertainty with the current landowners and their ongoing support for the project. The grantee, American Rivers, has agreed to make a decision regarding moving forward with the project by November 2021. Those are the highlighted updates for the Proposition 1 grant program. I'd like to open the floor up to any questions.
Thanks, Shelley. Appreciate your update. And let me go to the board members then. Questions, comments, any of the items? I don't see anyone. Any hands up? All right. If not, let me go.
Dawn, I guess
Oh, go ahead, Dolly. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it, but with on 1702, Prop 1 1702, the River Garden Farm project, where the landowner is wanting to sell the property. So where are we in the planning stage of that design restoration? And does that become a part of, are we now a part of the negotiations for that sale of the property? Or are we sort of second in line and just talk to whoever the new property owner may be? Or how do people find out if they're interested in buying this property, that we have this project that was overlying it with the previous owner or the current owner of the property? Sorry.
Good question.
That's a good question, Dolly. Thank you. So basically, we don't have a ton of information about the sale and the terms of the sale. It appears from kind of talking with some of the other project proponents on the same site, that the current landowners have the intent to sell to someone who is going to take over the conservation and restoration efforts on the property. And so that's why they've been kind of meeting all together to talk about the terms of the sale. But we don't have any concrete information at this point, which is, why the planning is paused at right now. They are planning to have the sale finalized next month. So because it's moving quickly, we're hopeful that we will have an answer one way or another. And it does seem more likely that we will be able to continue the planning for this project. And then the other project proponents on the site will also be able to continue planning and implementation projects on the site.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Also, just in general, on properties that we have already completed and closed projects on for restoration or a planning project, but really more for shovels in the ground type of work. We have a 15-year, I think, oversight on that. And so if a piece of property changes hands after we've done the restoration, that 15-year timeline goes with that property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Easement of sorts. Okay. Thank you.
Good, good questions, Dolly. Thanks. Thanks, Shelley, for your response. You'll keep us, I assume we'll have an update then at the October meeting.
Certainly.
If something that,
the grantee for 1702 for River Garden Farms is updating me weekly with any changes or the lack of changes, just so we stay in very close contact with the changes that are going on.
okay. If there's any board member that in between meetings wants to track this, certainly, I mean, good questions, and obviously there's an interest by our board, and certainly a lot of work that's gone into this with the funding and support of our Conservancy staff and all the various partners. So, you know, I would say feel free to follow up with either Campbell or Shelley if you want to get an update in between now and the next regular board meeting. So, okay. Others? Any other questions regarding any of the projects or comments? Okay, I don't see any. All right, then any public comments? Anyone sign up to speak? Anybody have a hand raised?
No public comments.
Okay, thanks, Martha. All right, then if there's nothing further, again, thank you for the update, and sounds like there's still good progress being made in a number of different fronts, but obviously with some transactions of pending sales and so forth, that certainly can provide at least a brief interruption to some of that planning work. So, okay, then if nothing further and no public comments, it's an information item, we'll move to item 8, which is the Prop 68 Community Economic Enhancement Grant Program Update. And I believe Sarah Lesmeister is going to be handling this presentation. So, Sarah.
Thanks, Don, and good morning, members of the board. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sarah Lesmeister. I'm an environmental program manager here at the Delta Conservancy. I oversee the Proposition 1, Proposition 68, and the special studies programs here at the Delta Conservancy. Today, I'm filling in for Robin, who is out for a family emergency, but I really look forward for this opportunity to present some of the materials that, that we've been working on over the past few months. So for this morning, I'm providing a high-level update to the Proposition 68 Community and Economic Enhancement Program. As of June 30th, 2021, there was 1 approved project, 10 working proposals, and 1 inactive proposal. In today's next agenda item, we will bring before you another project proposal for consideration and a staff recommendation. The total amount of funding currently requested or awarded through this program is $8,519,000. As a reminder, the Proposition 68 program makes it $12 million available, 20% of which must be used for projects that serve severely disadvantaged communities. Since the last board meeting, Conservancy staff have been working with several applicants to assist them in the project design and proposal development. One change we wanted to highlight in today's meeting is the splitting of the Clarksburg Schoolhouse project into 2 separate proposals. In review of their first proposal submission, the original proposal included 2 main elements, a land acquisition element and an implementation element. Based off of Conservancy's discussions with our colleagues at the Board and Grants Office at the California Natural Resource Agencies, it's standard and best practice to really separate out acquisition elements from other components of the project. So as a result, Conservancy staff updated the working proposal table in the board packet to reflect this standard practice. Originally, the entire schoolhouse project was under project ID 6802. Now project ID 6802 is reserved for the land acquisition element. The newly added project ID 6813 is dedicated to the implementation and construction and restoration component of the project. There are no major changes to the overall Clarksburg Schoolhouse project. It's just separated it out. And with that, that's really our major update for the broader program. And like I said, we'll be getting on to our staff recommendation in the next agenda item. I'll take any questions.
Well, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Okay, board members, questions about status projects or any comments about anything that Sarah's presented? Any hands up? Okay, don't see any. So any members of the public wish to address this?
No
Marla?
public comment.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. And again, it sounds like, you know, work on a number of different fronts and some pretty exciting projects on the list. And it's good to see that some of these are going into implementation. So at some juncture, we'll actually see on the ground, as Sarah outlined, certainly the planning goes behind this, but there's some, you know, significant amount of money being dedicated to, you know, qualified projects in the Delta. So, all right, if there's nothing else on item 8, then we'll keep moving down. And as Sarah alluded to, item 9, which is actually consideration of the award of Prop 68 Economic Enhancement Community Grant for the Southport Levy Recreational Trail Planning and Design. And again, Sarah will be standing in for Robin, and I'll let you carry your verbal report. Sarah.
Great, thank you again. And good morning again, board members. So today we bring before you a recommendation to award funding for the second project in the Conservancy's Proposition 68 Community and Economic Enhancement Program. As described in the board packet, the Conservancy staff recommend that the board approve up to $341,668 for the Southport Levy Recreational Trail Planning and Design Project proposed by the City of West Sacramento. The City of West Sacramento also plans to contribute $50,000 in cost share via staff time for a total project cost of $391,668. The proposed project will create 90% design plans and complete all environmental permitting required for the construction of 5.6 miles of paved, ADA compliant bicycle and pedestrian path on the crown of the Southport setback levee. The trail will start in urban downtown West Sacramento and head south through developed residential neighborhoods, agricultural areas, and wildlife habitat. In addition to planning for the trail and educational signage, the project will also consider and plan for amenities such as trailheads, shade, seating, and other components to encourage public access and increase recreational opportunities. The Southport Levee Trail will be adjacent and connected to several other projects and recreational spaces, thereby providing opportunities to observe restoration and construction in action and the benefits of that restoration when complete. Completion of the planning and design phase will enable shovel-ready plans that can be used to apply for grant funding for construction. As I mentioned in agenda item 8, the Proposition 68 program requires that at least 20% of all funding be spent on projects that serve severely disadvantaged communities. While the Southport Levee Recreational Trail Project does not meet the formal definition of serving an FSTAC, it is accessible to all members of the region. Please note that the Conservancy's Proposition 68 program is working with several other applicants in developing project proposals that do meet the formal definition of serving an FSTAC. Finally, local support is evident through the results of extensive community engagement over the past several years. For example, in 2019, the City of West Sacramento completed an update to their Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. Part of this update included extensive community outreach and completion of several surveys. The top priorities identified in these surveys included development of new trails, access to open space and nature, and improving connections to the Sacramento riverfront. If awarded funding, community engagement will continue in planning this project. The proposal includes 3 community meetings to gather input and feedback on design plans as they are developed. Stakeholders engaged during the feasibility study, so a prior component of the project, as well as other residents, reclamation districts, and relevant agencies will be invited to participate. And with that, I'd like to address any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, thanks. Questions, comments? Any?
Dan,
you have,
Don,
go ahead. Yeah, Karen. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed it on this. Is what's the completion date, or the tentative or proposed completion date?
Let me pull that up real quick. It's typically about 3 years from when the grant is executed, but it should be done sooner than that. We keep our grant funding terms at 3 years, but I expect it would be sooner than that.
I just got an e-bike and I'm looking for new places to ride.
Yeah.
It's all about
And
me,
this is-
folks. All about me.
And for clarification, this is the planning phase of the project, not the actual construction and implementation.
that's
so
true.
that
So
would
then-
be longer.
All right. Thank you.
I think it's
So you'll
interesting to note, though.
probably have a few miles on your bike before this gets done, so.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
think it's interesting to note, though, that because it's already on the crown of the levee, the expected costs for construction are really pretty low. So they expect it'll be pretty competitive when it's out looking for implementation funding. So that's a positive.
That is.
Other board members, any other comments? Do we have any members of the public, any the applicant, representatives, anybody else want to address the board?
No public comment.
All right, pretty straightforward. We have a recommendation and no further board member comments or any public comments, then our motion will be in order.
I'd like to move approval.
I'll
All right,
second.
Mr. President. Moved and seconded to approve.
Is that Dolly?
Yes,
Perfect.
thank you.
All righty, so with that, we have a motion in a second, and if there's further come before the board on this.
Ready for a vote?
Yep, go ahead, Jessica, please.
Okay, Supervisor Mitchoff,
Yes.
Winternitz is absent. Supervisor, Chair Natoli,
Aye.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Supervisor Mashburn,
Yes.
Supervisor Provenza,
Yes.
Board Member Lukenville,
Aye.
Board Member Cash.
Aye.
Right? Perfect. Board Member Matsumoto,
Yes.
Larry's absent, and Board Member Sandoval.
Yes,
Motion carries.
How many aye votes? Jessica, how many aye votes?
I think she's holding up 10
Nine.
fingers.
Oh, nine, okay, nine, okay, good, okay, all right, thanks.
Hey,
Okay.
if I could just very quickly, I just want to recognize, these projects are hard to bring forward. It takes a tremendous amount of effort on the part of all the staff as well as the applicants. But definitely also want to recognize Robin Kroc and Dylan Moore, who are really the leads and have been really shepherding these projects and working very carefully with the applicants to get them to this point where you all can have a recommendation to fund a good project. So great work on everybody's part, and thank you.
Congrats and thanks to Robin.
That was our last vote for the meeting. I know there was
Okay,
a
so that's
couple
it.
concerns about people leaving early.
All right, very good. Okay, thanks for that. Then we'll keep moving through our agenda. We do have a guest with us this morning for the next item for a presentation, and this is the San Francisco Estuary Partnership, the Blueprint Update Overview, and Darcy Luce is with us. And good morning to you once again, Darcy. And Campbell, did you want to make any introductory comments on this?
Yeah, just very briefly, I just want to thank Darcy for being here. And I want to make sure the board remembers that what a great opportunity this is. Both ourselves and the Stewardship Council are members of the Estuary Partnerships Implementation Committee. And that's really out of recognition that our systems are fundamentally connected between the Delta, the Sassoon Marsh, and the Bay. And this blueprint refresh is just a great opportunity to, again, not reestablish those connections, but recognize those connections and really try to think about the system collectively. And so we're very appreciative of the partnership's willingness to have us participate to try to provide that role. And again, very, very much appreciate Darcy being here today to help you all get a better understanding of the update of their blueprint process. So thank you, Darcy.
Thank you, Campbell, and thank you so much for the invitation to come and present to the board today. Really appreciate being here. Good morning, board members. My name is Darcy Luce, and I am an environmental planner with the San Francisco Estuary Partnership. Today, I'm going to give you a brief background on the San Francisco Estuary Partnership for those who are not as familiar with us, and I'll talk a little bit about the Estuary Blueprint and the update process that is currently underway. I will highlight a blueprint action that might be particularly relevant to your interests, the Delta Conservancy. And if there's time and interest, I'm happy to answer any questions or host any discussion. So Jessica, will you be advancing the slides?
I'll be advancing the slides. Just say
Okay.
when.
Okay, great. Thanks. Next slide.
That's Justin.
Justin, thank you. The San Francisco Estuary Partnership is a place-based, non-regulatory program of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We are one of 28 members of the National Estuary Program, which was established by Congress in 1988 to protect and restore estuaries of national significance. The National Estuary Program model focuses on local partnership, collaboration, and consensus building. We leverage federal, state, and local resources to support projects and programs to protect, restore, and enhance the estuary system. We work with a large suite of diverse partners to do that, and we are very efficient. For every $1 of federal funding we receive, we usually leverage that into anywhere between $19 to $68 of local and regional and state resources, which are mobilized primarily for projects and programs that are passed through to local partners for on-the-ground implementation projects and planning. Most recently, we've been passing through $75 million on average in funding for those projects and programs. The EPA does provide, as I said, a small amount of federal funding as well as program approval for the work that we do. We're required as a National Estuary Program to have a local administrative and fiscal home, which has been the Association of Bay Area Governments since our founding in the late 1980s. And we've been fortunate to work with Supervisor Mitchoff through her leadership on ABAG. We're also guided, as Campbell mentioned, by our 38-member implementation committee, which includes the Delta Conservancy and the Delta Stewardship Council, as well as many other local, state, and federal agencies, businesses, scientific research, and citizen advocacy organizations. And finally, our estuary blueprint goes through an approval process with the EPA and with our executive council, which includes administrators from our state and federal agencies, including the regional EPA Region 9 administrator, the Secretary of California Natural Resources, Secretary of California EPA, and so on. Next slide. Our planning area covers all of the watersheds that drain to the estuary, including both the Bay or Lower Estuary and the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta or Upper Estuary. We look at the Bay and Delta as one interconnected ecological system, and we work to incorporate that holistic view whenever possible, despite the significant differences between the two regions. And this is also the planning area of our estuary blueprint. You'll see that it does encompass the legal Delta there for the Upper Estuary. Next slide. The Estuary Blueprint is a non-regulatory regional planning document required by the Clean Water Act with a technical name of the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. It was first completed in 1993, and it served as the first collaborative plan for the estuary. It was developed by over 100 stakeholder groups, many of whom had never sat down at the table together to agree on priorities before that time. It has been updated twice since then, once in 2007 as an update of the existing document. And then in 2016, we did a major revision of the document and renamed it to the slightly easier to say Estuary Blueprint. So today, the current plan identifies priority actions agreed upon by over 80 organizations, and it serves to elevate those priority actions for potential funding and project development and implementation. Next slide. I'm going to jump just past this slide because this is a lot of these funding sources are really much more Bay focused. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the plan was last majorly revised in 2016 when we came up with a shorter name, and I'll talk about that briefly now. Next slide. In our most recent update in 2016, we undertook a major revision of the document. We maintained our collaboration with a very broad group of stakeholders, some of whom are here on this Zoom. And we asked the question, where do we want to be in 2050 in terms of estuary health? And what can we do in the next 5 years to get there? Next slide. We convened our broad base of partners to develop 4 goals or focus areas reflected here in the 4 orange circles. Starting with the top, we look to sustain and improve the estuary's habitats and living resources, including fish and wildlife. We look to improve water quality and increase the quantity of fresh water available to the estuary. We look to champion the estuary through stewardship and bolster the resilience of the estuary's ecosystems, shorelines, and communities to climate change. So the 2016 Estuary Blueprint has 32 actions which bridge across these focus areas. And as I mentioned before, a 5-year timeframe of 2016 to 2021. Next slide. Here we have an example action. Each action was developed through a consensus-based process in multi-stakeholder committees, and it's broken down into more specific achievable tasks with measurable milestones with a 5-year timeframe, as I mentioned, starting in 2016 and ending in 2021. This example action on carbon sequestration can give you a sense of the scope at the action level, which is pretty broad. And then you can see there are 3 tasks with milestone dates. And I apologize if you can't see the specifics here, but I will return to this action momentarily. Each action has implementing partners in the form of task owners or collaborating partners, and we have a total of 80 partners identified in the blueprint. Next slide. Thanks. So now we're in the midst of updating our 2016 Estuary Blueprint for the next 5 years. Next slide, please. On this round, we are taking a more streamlined approach to the update, so this will not be a major overhaul. We are focusing on reviewing the current 32 actions for relevance and importance, assessing the completion of existing tasks, and establishing new tasks or actions if necessary to advance the 4 existing goals. This update process is guided by our steering committee, which consists of representatives from our larger implementation committee, including from the Delta Stewardship Council. And the work is to update the tasks and actions is being led by estuary partnership staff who are convening working groups on specific actions or clusters of actions. Next slide, please. For this update, we have developed these guiding principles to help focus our efforts. Some of these are guiding principles that were part of previous efforts, but wanted to call your attention particularly to in the middle where we're looking to integrate further across geographies and plans. We want to continue to integrate the many different plans that now abound in our region. Certainly want to integrate on the Delta side, the existing Delta plans. And we want to continue to integrate the geographies of the Bay and Delta, bridging that sociopolitical divide that sometimes exists between those 2 regions because, again, they are part of one ecological system. And that's one element that sets us as the partnership apart from a lot of other regional planning efforts on both the Bay and Delta sides. We want to elevate equity this time, much more so than last time. This was something that we identified moving out of our 2016 blueprint as an element to really focus more attention on. So we want to bring human dimensions forward in this update. And then we're always looking to engage more stakeholders and bring new partners on board with implementing and updating the blueprint, both this time and in future versions. Next slide, please. So this is a very dense graphic, but it's a simplified overview of all of the actions, just to show you how comprehensive our blueprint is and how the actions fit together to an extent. These 3 circles and the one in the center represent our 4 goals or focus areas of resilience, water, living resources, and in the center, stewardship, or maybe we could call it people for today. And you can see there's a lot of overlap between these focus areas, and you can also see that we are looking, as we're starting to move into the update, we're looking to integrate some of the existing actions from the 2016 version. And there's that gray box in the bottom left corner that's either looking at discontinuing some actions or integrating actions into other parts of the blueprint. Since we don't have much time, I'm just going to focus on one of the actions, and that is using wetlands to reduce greenhouse gases. Next slide. So I thought I would highlight this action 11, because this is the action that lists the Delta Conservancy as a task owner or lead. There are 3 tasks under this action, but of course, task 11.3 is one of our blueprint success stories through the completion of the Conservancy's award-winning carbon offset methodology. And we're looking to the next steps with this action in the update, and Campbell has been involved in the working group on that, as well as others. And so we're continuing to rely on the Delta Conservancy's guidance for this action in particular, looking toward, as I understand it, project implementation in the Delta and ways that projects can stack benefits, particularly economic benefits with environmental benefits. And on the Bay side, carbon cycling isn't as well understood, so a task may be developed to advance the understanding of carbon cycling in the Bay's tidal wetlands. Next slide. Here is the timeline for the update process. We started about this time last year. We established a steering committee and kicked off our update. And then we've worked through the winter to establish staff-led working groups for the actions and review the existing actions, making sure that we're up to date on the progress and implementation of the existing actions and their tasks. A lot of our working groups have had their initial meetings, but we're continuing to go through that working group meeting process now, and it's certainly still a very good time for input. We hope to have the update released in the first half of next year after we go through the approval process with the Executive Council and the EPA, looking towards a draft blueprint for the fall and then revising that and having a final blueprint in the very early part of 2022. And just as I mentioned before, hopefully being able to release that in the first half of next year. Next slide. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there's time. And certainly you can reach out and contact me if you would like on anything that I've talked about in the presentation today.
Thank you, Darcy. And I think we do have some time for questions if board members want to ask Darcy anything about the presentation or the ongoing work. And thank you for covering a lot of material in a short amount of time, Darcy. Obviously, you bundled a whole lot of here in the presentation. Thanks for sharing. So let me go to the board members or our staff.
I see Sandy raising her hand.
Okay, great. Sandy.
Thanks, Darcy. And I don't know if this question's for you and or maybe Campbell, but I just wondered what the Conservancy staff role is in the planning process, if any.
We've been participating on a couple of the different subgroups just to provide input and feedback on from our perspective and what we know to be going on in the Delta. So that's kind of our expectation. And Darcy, I just want to point out that on your slide about the carbon work, I think we need to include that that's both conversion to managed wetland as well as rice cultivation. I think they both achieve the same, and want to make sure that those are both included. But yes, Sandy, I think that's pretty much been our role, is just to try to be watching the development of these priorities and informing them based on our role and our efforts.
Other questions?
Don, I don't have a question, but just a comment, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Don.
Thank you. So Darcy, thank you for your presentation. And I really appreciate you adding in the information of the carbon projects that we've been working on, because I think way in the recesses of my mind and perhaps at the forefront of Jim's mind, but we started talking about carbon restoration in the Delta way back on one of our public policy committees and discussions. And it's good to see that it actually is coming forward again and that you're working with us to manage that. And I think we talk about that later in our strategic plan update too. So thanks so much.
Yes. Yeah. Others? Follow up with Darcy if you do, if you think as she listed her contact information there. So let me turn to the phones or to our public. Any comments from any of the partners or any member of the public?
No public comment.
Darcy, thank you so much. Thanks, Campbell, for the efforts of the Conservancy and Conservancy staff, and appreciate you being with us. And we'll look forward to the final iterations of the.
John, you're getting a little hard to hear. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I just want to say we look forward to the updates of the final update of the plan, and we appreciate Darcy being with us this morning, and thank you to Conservancy staff for your coordination on the effort as well. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Okay, then we'll get to our next item, which is item 11 of our agenda. That's the Conservancy Strategic Plan development, the update for the 2022-2027 period. And Deborah's going to give us a quick overview, and the materials are there. And as Dolly alluded to, there's a lot of information included in the strategic plan update and the development of the update. So Deborah, I'll turn it to you or Campbell to give some introductory comments and kind of put us on point here, and then we'll go to the board members.
Did you want to add anything, Cal, or should I jump in?
No, jump on in. Thanks, Deborah.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Kustick. It's my distinct privilege to be the Deputy Executive Officer for the Conservancy. And what we're presenting to you today are the drafts of the guiding principles, goals, objectives, and the metrics that will really form the backbone of the Conservancy's third strategic plan. Each strategic plan covers 5 years, and the current plan that we're operating under now covers from 2017 through 2021, and the plan that we're working on now will cover 2022 through 2026. So at this time, what we're doing today is seeking early feedback from the board and the public, and then the input that we receive today will be considered as staff further develops and refines the draft document that we'll then bring to the board for consideration in October for approval to circulate the draft document for a 30-day comment period. We'll receive comments then, assuming it's approved for circulation, and then the document will be refined based upon any input we received, and a final draft will be presented to the board in January for approval of adoption as a final document. So a little bit about the process that we're going through to develop this is to assist in the development of the first 2 plans that the Conservancy had, we engaged to the assistance of a consultant. We went through a fairly exhaustive process of conducting listening sessions and gathering input from a really wide range of stakeholders, such as local communities, local, state, and federal agencies, non-governmental organizations, and legislative representatives. At the time, the Conservancy was just standing up and figuring out its place as a state agency working in the Delta and Sassoon Marsh. Now that we have 10 years of experience, we have a better sense of that. And we're not really anticipating any major shifts in direction with this new plan. And so we believe that the process can be a little bit more streamlined and be completed in-house with existing resources, but of course, providing ample opportunity for input to help us guide that process, which brings us here today. So regarding the plan itself, it sets high-level goals and objectives to focus the Conservancy's efforts. The audience is not only just the Conservancy itself and the board to guide us in how we apply our resources, but also the audiences are our partner agencies, and most importantly, the Delta community and the Sassoon Marsh stakeholders, so that they know our intent and our direction for the next 5 years. The plan, as you know, is used in conjunction with its companion document, the Conservancy's annual implementation plan. Each implementation plan specifies tasks and timelines for the calendar year that will advance the Conservancy towards those goals and objectives in the strategic plan. And then beginning with the 2022 implementation plan, it will cross-reference those specific goals and objectives from the strategic plan to just make that linkage a little bit more easy to see. So we don't really want this plan to just sit on a shelf. It's a lot of work for something to just sit there. So we really want it to be a useful document. And for that to happen, it has to be easy to read and understand and reference. So therefore, our vision for this document is for it to be a fairly presented in a fairly streamlined manner, but still ensuring that it provides the necessary guiding information. So you will see that it'll be a little bit more concise than the ones we've had in the past, but hopefully that will actually increase its usability. In the drafts that we're presenting, there are 5 goals, and those are the big picture outcomes that the Conservancy wants to achieve. With each goal, there are 2 to 3 objectives that more specifically identify components of that goal. And then for each objective, there is a suite of metrics that indicate how the Conservancy, ways in which the Conservancy can evaluate its progress. New to the strategic plan this year, or with this 3rd strategic plan, are guiding principles. We are proposing 7 guiding principles that really set the context for everything that the Conservancy does and how it will do it. So that's kind of an introduction to the process in the document. Before I talk specifically about the principles, goals, objectives, metrics, I want to just pause there and see if there are any questions or any discussion on what I've presented so far.
Thanks, Debbie. Oh, anybody? Board?
Yes, I had a question on the land managed to reduce and reverse land subsidence. Are there opportunities present in all of the Delta counties to engage in that portion of the strategic plan?
Campbell, I'm going to let you field that one.
Yeah, happy to. So I think the short answer is not exactly sure. Those specific activities are really most effective on the highest organic soils and most deeply subsided areas of the Delta. So the exact line where Solano and Yolo counties intersect those lines, I'm not aware of. Certainly Sacramento County, San Joaquin County, and then Contra Costa County have a lot of real estate in that zone that is most highly subsided and where we would do that type of work. I think there's some opportunity on the edge. Recent conversations, though, have indicated that we might want to look more broadly at other carbon opportunities throughout the Delta in terms of agricultural practices and even on the more mineral soils that as you get out of that deeply subsided area. So I think the language is sufficiently broad that it can cover moving in that direction in the future too.
I know that Yolo County is interested in partnering. We did pass an emergency climate resolution setting the goal of negative carbon in our county by 2030, which is a quite ambitious goal, and we have a citizens / scientific expert committee that's working on this project. So I think we have some opportunities for collaboration, which I can talk to you about offline.
That's fantastic. And so that everyone knows too, we've been participating in the development of the state's climate smart land strategy and really trying to ensure that statewide that we have practices and a strategy for taking advantage as much as we can for natural and working lands to address climate issues. And so that document is moving through the process and hopefully comes out relatively soon, and will hopefully provide some guidance for all of us about how we coordinate, prioritize, and hopefully fund projects moving forward.
And other carbon neutral or reducing farming practices is also right up at the top of our list. We're actually looking for funding opportunities for possible pilot projects that we would get our farmers to participate in.
Excellent.
So thanks for for doing this too. This great, very readable. When I think of some of our past plans that went on and on, no one reads them, and I just read this whole thing. It's very, very easy to read and very understandable. Good job.
That's good feedback.
Yeah, thank you. And we will put some context around it, but we do want to keep that readability and usability. I'm happy to walk you through the guiding principles and the goals and objectives and metrics if you'd like, or we can certainly just sort of open it up for discussion, whatever is the board's preference.
Well, I would just say, I think it is very readable, and there's something you wanted to highlight. Certainly, Deborah, don't want to cut you short, but I think, you know, there's enough, it's brief enough, but certainly substantive enough that if folks want to ask questions about guiding principles or any of the goals or metrics, certainly the objectives that are outlined, now is the time to do it. Again, this will continue to be, you know, a working document for the next few months, but I think seeking feedback right now. So let me go back to board members then. Anybody want to draw attention to a particular aspect of this, make comments, questions?
I know what it's like not to hear back from people. I agree with Jim. It was very easily understood, and I would just say go forth and write it up.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Great. Thank you for that feedback.
Any others?
Yeah, this is Kathy.
Kathy.
I agree. It's very readable. I like the principles a lot, and so I think we're off to a really good update on this. I think it kind of refines a lot of the things, and I think the readability is important to keep. So thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I guess I'll ask, again, I think this has come a long ways from the documents that when I first started on this Conservancy. So I like that it's a living document, and that staff members and board members go back and refer to it and build upon projects. The last guiding principle you have here, committing the Conservancy to creating an inclusive workplace that promotes and values diversity, I think is a goal that many organizations at this point are really striving to meet. And so given the state process, how do we diversify? It looks like we've got some age diversity in our staff here. We have, well, a little gender diversity, but we don't have very many males working for us anymore, it seems. And so how do we go about really getting ethnic diversity more involved in our staff that we hire, or where are those scientists going? Who are we competing with for ethnic diversity, racial? And
yeah, that's a really great question. I'm glad you asked it. So a couple thoughts on that. We are just trying to broaden, and we have a great opportunity with three vacancies, right? To broaden our reach in who we're making aware of the opportunities that the Conservancy presents. We are working closely with something called the Targeted Recruitment Unit at Department of General Services, who conducts our HR, to try to find opportunities to just get the word out to a much wider audience, so that those that are interested and qualified are aware of it and can take advantage of opportunities to work with us. I think another component, and why education and outreach is so important, is really getting people informed about what the work that we do, and people across all demographics and backgrounds and ethnicities and orientations, so that they are aware of what we do. So it's not just, hey, here's an employment opportunity, but looking at the type of work we do, finding opportunities and how they might relate to those. I think that there are system-wide challenges to some diversity in the scientific field, and that is something that we have limited ability to affect individually, but collectively it all makes an impact. So that wider education and outreach of making school children aware and engaged and excited about opportunities in science, and setting them on a path to where they can be the future leaders in those roles will be really, really important. And so some of the things that sometimes I think education and outreach just sounds a little bit, I don't want to say fluffy, but can sound like it's maybe takes a second fiddle to some of the more hardcore work that people might consider that we do is really just fundamental, I think, to the larger process in getting equity and inclusivity across the board. So those are some general thoughts, but of course we will continue to do everything we can. And we've got our JEDI committee, our Justice, Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion committee that we're definitely working through to find other opportunities where we can expand.
Great, and I would appreciate, I think it's important the JEDI community is involved in this. Have you given any thought to addressing graduate students, say at Davis or over there at Sacramento State, students at Sacramento State in the sciences, just to, I'm going to presume that they have a career and counseling center that we might be able to approach. And again, this may not happen overnight. And I agree, Deborah, starting with young children and getting them to see that they too can be the scientists that help change the world is important, but that's a much longer term solution than what we need. So maybe attacking the graduate students or other organizations like that, I think would be important too.
Absolutely, and that's how I got into this. I had an internship requirement and went looking and ended up with a state agency, and the rest is history. So I'm testament to that process really works. So absolutely, that's a great.
I just wanted to share too that we are part of a bigger process too, being under the Natural Resource Agency. They have just recently hired a new deputy secretary for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and he's tasked with looking across the all 19,000 employees and 27 plus departments within California Natural Resources Agency. So we'll be working with them too, and hopefully kind of be able to leverage their efforts, which I think will be pretty exhaustive in terms of reaching out to more diverse people through the education system. So look forward to working with them too.
And we certainly welcome any ideas, large or small, of how we can further that mission.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was going to change the subject. Go ahead, Deborah.
No, that's okay. I was as well, so go for it.
It looks great. I just want to echo that sentiment that seems to be unanimous among the board members. My question's about the metrics, because I think those are also excellent. And I wondered how much of those metrics we've tracked historically versus what's sort of new and would be kind of looking ahead, because those metrics are great for sort of telling the story of success of the Conservancy. But I also know metrics are really hard to actually gather and track, and so just wondered sort of where you are on that.
Well, you just teed up where I was going to head, so thank you. Nice segue. So the metrics that we've got there it presents a suite of metrics that are options for us to measure our progress. For each one, as we get into implementation, we might not necessarily track each and every one, but we really wanted to put thought into how do we figure these things out. A lot of them are things that are metrics that we've tracked, but not necessarily on as a systematic basis as we look to do in the future. And that's one of the things that we're talking with our managers or senior scientists of how do we integrate that into our processes so that we are tracking that as opposed to in a little more formal way as opposed to a little less systematically. And of course, we will add new measures as we implement actions where those make sense and are fitting and relevant. So that's a long way to say that many of the things we are tracking to a certain level, and we look to elevate kind of the level of detail that we're doing for those. Does that answer your question? And the plan overall, it is a tricky balance to strike between finding a plan that gives you enough specificity to really be useful and guide your actions, but not constraining you to the point where you don't have flexibility, because it is a 5-year plan. And if you look back 5 years from now, where we were and the growth that we've experienced, we want to leave room for that to happen, but still have the plan fit that. So that's the balance that we're hoping to strike with this.
All right. Other questions, comments? And then see no hands or hearing no others. Let me ask Martha, are there any folks on the line or any members of the public who wish to address
No
this
public
item?
comment.
Well,
Anything
thank
else
you.
for the good of you?
I was going to say,
Go
we
ahead.
welcome any continuing, comments as we go through this process.
Very good. Good. I was going to say too, continue to reflect on it, and I think good work product, and hopefully it'll be good guidance for approaches we want to take in all of our work at the Conservancy over the course of the next several years once this is finalized. So, okay, with that, thanks, Deborah. Appreciate that presentation. Thanks for the work that's gone into this and for having such a concise, but I think very thorough approach to a strategic plan. So, good example for others to follow as well.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing further on that item, then no action required at this point in time. We'll move down to some of our updates, and I know we have a number of guests who join us regularly. And so first we'll have the Delta Stewardship Council update, and I believe Amanda Boyle is going to be doing this update. Amanda?
Yes, thank you, Chair Natoli, and good morning, board members. Just two updates today. As many of you know, the council remanded the Department of Water Resources Lookout Slough project back to DWR because the certification of consistency was not supported by substantial evidence in the record regarding two specific issues brought up by the appellants. The two policies not supported are related to best available science and respect of local land uses. This remand does not terminate the project in any way, shape, or form. DWR can proceed with the Lookout Slough project by modifying the project to respond to the council's findings and then submit a revised certification. Council staff has already reached out to DWR staff to provide early consultation to assist DWR in preparing the revised certification. So, and the council looks forward to seeing the proposal or the project again in the future. And then I also want to let you all know of kind of the status of compensation for the Delta Independent Science Board. I think this was brought up the last time I provided an update to you all. SB 821 is currently in the Senate for concurrence on Assembly amendments. And so this legislation will reestablish the independence of the Delta Independent Science Board by providing its members or stating that their members are not state employees and specifying that the ISB's members will be contracted at a rate of $150 per hour to be adjusted for inflation. And then the legislation also includes an urgency clause, which is great because as soon as it gets signed by the governor, or if it gets signed by the governor, which we're hopeful that it will go into effect immediately. So we'll be able to get these contracts or get the ISB under contract immediately and allow them to get back to their normal rate of business and the great work that they do for the Delta. So yeah, so I think those are really the two main things I wanted to just update you all on, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have about these two items or anything else.
Thanks, Amanda. Questions? I think you covered it. Thanks for the updates. Appreciate it, Amanda. Any member of the public wish to comment on the report?
No public comment.
Okay, very good. Okay, with that then, we'll move down to item 13, which is the Delta Protection Commission update, and that'll be handled by Eric Bank. Eric, good morning. Is Eric still with us on the line?
Eric, you may be on mute.
I see that he's an attendee. Let me promote him real quick.
Okay. Important to get that promotion. Otherwise, he can't hear you.
Okay, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Justin. Eric, good morning.
I so appreciate the promotion. Thank you.
Go ahead.
A few items I wanted to report on today. Thank you for this opportunity. First off, I really appreciated the discussion about the Conservancy strategic plan, and we too went through a process that culminated in our commission adopting revised strategic plan objectives at our meeting on July 15th. But I was especially appreciative of the way Deborah and Campbell and your staff pulled together your strategic objectives and the way you've outlined metrics, which is going to send us back to do some additional work on ours, because of course it's important to measure those type of things. So thank you for that. And again, our commission did adopt revised strategic objectives. They look much the same from our 2015 strategic plan as it was adopted by our commission, but we have recognized some new strategic objectives. I always have a hard time stringing those two words together. And we also recognize that we checked the box on a few items, including the adoption of the National Heritage Area. Of course, a lot of work remains to be completed in implementing that, and also accomplishing permanent status for the Delta Levees Subventions Program. So those were two examples of strategic items that had been identified in 2015 that were accomplished. So those move off the list, and some new ones enter the list as well. We're working collaboratively with the Conservancy on welcome to the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta National Heritage Area signs that will be located at key locations at the periphery of the Delta on our major highways. The work currently involves coordinating with Caltrans staff in 3 districts, District 3 out of Marysville, District 4 in the Bay Area, and District 10 in Stockton. Those are the 3 Caltrans districts that comprise the Delta. And we do need to obtain encroachment permits to be able to put these signs up in the Caltrans right-of-way. We'll further be working with the California Conservation Corps on the installation of those. And again, this is a joint effort between the Commission and the Conservancy. And actually, we're supporting the Conservancy in this, and very happy to do so. Speaking of our National Heritage Area, there are bills in Congress. One would extend the boundaries of the National Heritage Area to include about 60 acres in Rio Vista, which would incorporate both the historic Army base, which is also the proposed site of the new Estuarine Research Center, a joint effort between state and federal agencies, primarily DWR and the Bureau of Reclamation. So Congressman Garamendi has legislation in that would extend the NHA boundary to include that area, as well as the county park there and the Coast Guard station. There's a whole lot fitting into that approximately 60 acres. And then in addition, he's put in legislation that would extend the deadline to complete the management plan, which we at the Delta Protection Commission are responsible for that as the coordinating entity. And that would extend the deadline from March of 2022 by a year. Both bills are moving through the legislature or through Congress. Our commission voted to endorse both of those bills at the July 15th meeting. And then just to wrap up, I wanted to mention that we currently have open voting for Best of the Delta. This is an effort between the Commission and the Delta Marketing Task Force that the Conservancy is actively participating in. This year we have 18 categories. The voting will close this Friday. We've already received a lot more voting than we have in years past. And so it's getting a lot of subscription. There's minimal ballot box stuffing. And so we've got a lot of people out there that are very interested in highlighting their favorite places in the Delta, which we love. A lot of that is being coordinated through the visitcadelta.com website. And it's worth noting that traffic to that website more than doubled from the first quarter of this year to the second quarter of this year. That's an increase that we have not seen before. So this thing's starting to get the kind of critical mass and traction that we had hoped it would, and we will hope for continued increases in traffic to that site. If any board members are not familiar with visitcadelta.com, I hope you're keying that into your computer as we speak. Please check it out. It's really intended to provide information for visitors to the California Delta, and it will become the springboard for promoting the Delta National Heritage Area. So we'll be combining those efforts as we move forward. And then finally, the commission, and this goes back to our strategic plan, one of our new objectives that was not identified in 2015 has to do with improving both cellular phone service and broadband availability throughout the Delta. And we do have a current initiative that's focused in Yolo and Sacramento counties. We're working jointly with Valley Vision and with officials in the city of Ileton, Sacramento County, and Yolo County to put in grant requests to improve broadband availability, initially in those River Delta communities in both counties, but we hope to expand that throughout the Delta as well. And so that'll be an important part of the commission's work moving forward. Anyway, that's a lot more than I usually report on, but I'm real excited to do so. And thank you again for the opportunity today.
Thanks, Eric. We have questions, comments about any of the items Eric covered, commission activities? Okay, very good. Voting is open until close of business, I guess, Friday, or I don't know if it's midnight. So if you want to vote for the best of the best in one of those 18 categories, you still have time to do so.
Yeah, visit cadelta.com. Check it out.
Check it out. Okay. Thanks again, Eric. Okay. All righty. Any member of the public online that want to comment on this?
No public comment.
Okay. Thanks, Martha. Okay. Next, then we'll go to item 14, our Delta conveyance update. And I believe Carrie will not be able to join us, but we are very capably informed by Patricia Clark. So Patricia, Pat.
Thank you, Chair Natoli, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here. I'm Pat Clark from the Department of Water Resources, Delta Conveyance Office, and I'm substituting for Carrie Buckman, who had a jury duty conflict today. So, so I have 4 quick verbal updates for you. The first one is in the broader picture. You know, we are continuing to work to analyze environmental impacts on the alternatives. And if we identify significant impacts, we will be working to reduce or avoid them through mitigation. So that's kind of the big picture thing of what we're working on now. Second is just a reminder that back at the end of May, concerning the environmental justice survey we did, we published the report on our website at the end of May with the results of the Delta Environmental Justice Survey. If you go to our website, to the Delta Conveyance Office, and you click on the Environmental Justice tab, the report is there. And then we're working to scrub that data a little bit more so that we could release more of it to the public. And that's because some commenters included a lot of information in detail, sort of specific to themselves and their property, which might allow them to be identified personally. So we're looking to kind of scrub some of that so that their general comment could be released. So that was the second one. And then the third update is, and this is kind of what we're working on right now. We're conducting these technical workshops, webinars on technical topics this summer. So there's 4 of them. And the idea is to help prepare the public for release of the draft environmental impact report, which is scheduled for mid-2022. And it's really focused on a lot of technical, the more difficult topics that maybe some members of the public, you know, are not as well educated about and would like to learn more about, so that they're better able to read and understand and engage with the draft EIR when it comes out. So these are all virtual. webinars. They're in the evening from 6 to 8. We've already had the first one, actually. That was on July 14th, and the topic was State Water Project Operations. Very well attended, a couple hundreds of people. So there are 3 more. And I don't know if you want to grab a pen and jot this down, but the next one is next Tuesday, actually, August 3rd, and it's on fisheries and aquatics. Following that, the next one is on August 25th on the very complicated topic of climate change. And then the very last one is on September 16th, and that topic is environmental justice. So again, one of the key things I want to emphasize here is they are fairly technical topics, but we have these expert presenters who are good at sort of explaining some of the nuts and bolts of this to the layperson. And so that's really the benefit of it, to enhance understanding. So we're quite excited about this. More information, if you're interested, is on our website, on the Delta Conveyance website. And there's a tab specifically for this, informational webinars. And of course, we send information and reminders about this out on our email list. So if you're on that, you'd be getting updates that way as well. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that. Again, they're all from 6 to 8 in the evening, virtual. And then the very last update I have, I understand that Carrie usually provides an overview of the TEP process. That's temporary entry permit. And so I have a couple of numbers here that I think some of you like to sort of keep track of. So for the TEP phase 1, let's see, the current numbers are 20 people said yes, 4 are on hold, 1 is in negotiation, and 28 have been referred to court-ordered entry. And then I'm going to do the same sort of thing for the TEP phase 2. Okay, so in phase 2, 14 have said yes, 2 have said no, 2 also are on hold, and 32 have been referred to court-ordered entry. So I can repeat any of that if anybody missed anything. But Chair Natoli, that generally concludes my update. Happy to try to answer any questions or refer them on to Ms. Buckman. Okay, good.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for being with us this morning. Thanks for the update on the workshops and some of the other topical areas and for the information. Let me ask members of the Conservancy Board any questions for Pat? Don't see any. Martha, do we have any members of the public wanted to comment on a conveyance update?
No public comment.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. And thanks for the information regarding the workshops and also the follow-up. So Pat, thank you, and all the best to you and to Carrie, and appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. That brings us down to the next update, and that's our Echo Restore and Charlotte Biggs. Charlotte, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Chair Natoli and board members. Charlotte Biggs with DWR. Thanks again for having me to provide an update on Eco Restore and our restoration projects in the Delta. For the last several meetings, I've been highlighting 4 efforts that are either under construction or projects that we hope will start construction this year. So for today, I'll just provide a quick update on the status of those 4 efforts, just to keep you up to date. So the first is Dutch Slough Tidal Habitat Restoration Project. This is a 1,200-acre site in Contra Costa County between Big Break and Jersey Island. Construction to restore the wetland area began in 2018, and the wetland construction is now complete. The last step of the project is to construct a trail around the perimeter of the site and then to breach the levee in 3 places. We are planning to breach the levee this October, so in just a couple of months, and that will fully complete the project. I wanted to highlight that the Delta Conservancy helped fund this, a portion of this effort under Prop 1 for the revegetation effort. And I had the opportunity to go out to the site last week and see the results of that revegetation in person, and it's very impressive. We planted tules and riparian shrubs and other native plants just last spring, and it's already really taken off. It looks like it's been there for years. We've been actually pumping water onto the site, so it's already, the channels are full, and the what looks like a lake, it's a borrow pit, is now full of water. So birds and fish are already starting to use the site as we prepare to breach. So I wanted to mention that DWR and River Partners are working on some outreach materials that we plan to release around the time that we breach the site and complete the project. Some video clips, news articles, things like that. So I'll be sure to share that with you all at a future meeting so you can see the results of this. The last component of the project is to connect the trail to the East Bay Regional Park District trail system. And so we're working with the city of Oakley on that. We do need some funding. There's a park plan that the city has planned, but we are working on moving that forward. So this will be a real resource to there's a lot of development in that area. So those homeowners will be able to use this as a park, and I think it's going to be a real gem in that area. The second project I wanted to highlight is the Yolo Bypass Salmonid Habitat Restoration and Fish Passage Project, otherwise known as the Fremont Weir Big Notch. This project is in the northern Yolo Bypass at the Fremont Weir. We're creating some new infrastructure to allow juvenile and adult fish to move between the Sacramento River, the floodplain, and the Yolo Bypass. This is a federally required action for the Bureau of Reclamation and DWR as part of our Central Valley project and State Water Project operations. So the new infrastructure plan to be constructed includes a gated notch at the Fremont Weir, as well as new channels. This has been a real complex effort. It's been in the works for many years and incorporated a lot of input from participants, stakeholders, landowners, and other partners such as Yolo County. We've been working to incorporate a lot of different interests into the final design operation plans. So our status right now is that we are working through some final permits and approvals, as well as real estate agreements with landowners in the bypass. And then the project team hopes to start some vegetation clearing by the end of this year in 2021. And complete the construction of the infrastructure, the new infrastructure, between spring and fall of next year. So really getting to a big milestone with that project. The third one is Bradmore Island and Arnold Slough, which are two adjacent tidal wetland restoration projects in the Sassoon Marsh within Solano County. These two parcels were permitted together, and our plan was to construct them as one effort. They're about 700 acres combined. And so DWR owns these two sites. We have all of our permits and approvals in hand, excuse me, but we've run into some snags on on Bradmore Island. So Arnold Slough will start construction this August, and then Bradmore will start next year. And it'll be a two-year construction on those tidal wetland restoration projects. And then lastly, we continue to move forward with the Lookout Slough Tidal Habitat Restoration and Flood Improvement Project, which is our largest and most complex project in our portfolio right now. This is a multi-benefit habitat and flood improvement project. It's about 3,400 acres in Solano County. We received our encroachment permit from the Central Valley Flood Protection Board last Friday. So this required full approval from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and approval of our final design on the new setback levee. This was the final permit that we needed. However, we do have 2 approvals left before we can start construction. So the first is that we're working with Solano County on a road vacation. There's a segment of the county road that's actually on top of the levee that we hope to breach as part of the project to create the wetland and the setback levee. So we're working with the county on their process to vacate that portion of Liberty Island Road. And then lastly, this was mentioned earlier, but we need to certify our consistency with the Delta Plan. and with the Delta Stewardship Council. So we're continuing to work through that public process as well. So construction start date for Lookout Sioux is a bit uncertain. We're hoping to begin some work this year, but we need to get those 2 final approvals. So we'll continue to do that, and I'll just keep you updated as we move forward. So that was all I had for you today. Thanks again, and let me know if you have any questions.
Great. Well, thank you, Charlotte. Thanks for the update, and sounds like you're moving well along and completing one project, and in the midst of others as well. So let me ask board members. I'm sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, actually a comment. Thank you for the report, and thank you for working with Yolo County. I did want to mention that I don't think we have signatures yet, but I believe we have an agreement between the state and Yolo County resolving all issues involving the fish passage project, so that we will be able to support the project going forward on fish in a way that's also protective of our birds at the wildlife area and our agriculture. This was I think a negotiation, but also a cooperative one that went on for about 10 years. So thank you, and thanks for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you to Yolo County for sticking with us through those 10 years and working through. It's a very complex project, but we appreciate being able to partner with you on it.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks, Jim. And Charlotte, as you well know, the commission took this up a couple of weeks ago at our meeting, and concerns were expressed about use of eminent domain. I know you weren't the presenter, but you had some of your colleagues, and certainly Yolo County is represented on the commission, but that was a concern of the work with the landowners, not taking away from the project, but certainly how folks are accommodated relative to their interest in their property and what may or may not happen, as a part of the project. So hopefully that will get addressed as well. I think the commission sent a letter on that. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions from anybody on the board? All right. If not, then any member of the public?
No public comment.
Okay. Well, very good. Thanks, Jim, for your comments, and thank you, Charlotte, for your presentation. And to all our presenters for being with us this morning, and certainly helps to update the Conservancy members and staff, but also for those that track our meeting. It's a good forum for sharing information that's very pertinent to activities in the Delta. So, okay, then that gets us down to the bottom portion of our agenda. We have on item 16 just any items for consideration for our next regular scheduled meeting, October 27th. Campbell, anything you wanted to add? I know there was an attachment, I think, related to this.
Yeah, just to just recognize we're no promises, but we hope to bring 1, 2, possibly 3 Proposition 68 proposals to the board for consideration. As I say, no promises. There's always lots that can happen between now and then, but we're hopeful. We will be bringing you a more fleshed out public draft of the strategic plan that we would like the board to consider. If approved, we would post that for a 30-day public comment period. And then I just want to reiterate, well, actually, I'd love to hear any other ideas that board members or anyone has for things that we might want to include. But I just want to, we will sort of redouble efforts to make sure people have the right links to get to the meeting. You want to look for invitations coming from James Pierce because it identifies you as a panel member. But we'll make sure that reminders go out just before the meeting, and everybody gets that next time around too. So hopefully, as long as we're still in this realm of virtual, we can make it a little more efficient. So that's it. Happy to entertain any other thoughts or ideas about things for future agenda items. Looks like Jim has a hand.
Yeah, Jim.
Well, Campbell, well, first of all, I thought maybe an appropriate term for what happens when you come into a meeting and no one can see you, but you can see everyone else and they can't hear you is Zoom ghosting.
Our apologies for all the Zoom ghosts this morning who had trouble getting in.
And if it would be, I was thinking of presenting a summary of our resolution on the fish passage project issues, because as you know, we've discussed it here several times, and it was a long process with a lot of issues. And I would like to report to the Conservancy, if that would be appropriate, as to our resolution of those issues, assuming everybody signs the document. But I think we've got a couple months, so we should be able to present at the next meeting.
Certainly, we can check in with you to see if it's ripe and ready to go, and if so, we can agendize it and have an overview. That'd be great.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Others, any thoughts or ideas for the next meeting?
Jim, how would you like me to write that? Jim wants to report to the Conservancy about the summary of the Yolo County.
I guess it would be the agreement between DWR and Yolo County on the fish passage project. I still can't say the whole.
And I have to write it, so okay, thank you.
We'll touch base and get a full working title.
Thank you.
All right.
What else? All right, if items do come up, certainly, again, work through Campbell, and we'll try to accommodate, on the agenda. And again, I thank people for their patience this morning. I know, as I said earlier, this isn't quite as efficient as Karen ran a meeting, but we're right at the 2-hour mark here, and we didn't get started.
Very well.
At any rate, so if nothing further for the agenda, we are looking at October 27th for our next meeting, and would just note that there's an opportunity for public comment, whether any of our partner members or anybody else who was on the line or any member of the public wish to comment. I guess items that aren't on the agenda, and maybe we made that call earlier, but if not, we're getting right to adjournment here. So Martha?
No public comment. Nope.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks again. And if there's nothing else to come before us, I want to thank all the staff, certainly Jessica and Martha for assisting Justin on the phones, and for all of you that were a Zoom ghost and got promoted, hang on to that, and hopefully next month will be everybody will be admitted right at the get-go, or excuse me, in October. Okay, not to be labored, thank you all for joining. If there's nothing further coming before the Conservancy Board, we will stand in adjournment, and have a safe and enjoyable rest of the day, and we'll see you all back October 27th, not before.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, bye-bye.